So in essence, like our primary objective of Vuka Dakie, as the name Vele Isho Vele Vusumund, is to awaken the black race. So as Vuka Dakie, we want to counteract all the negative portrayal of Africans by the white media. So when you look at the white media, it constantly portrays Africans as negative. Hence why even when you look at Emofi at its formative stages, they saw it was a big giant that was coming, you understand? And then they started writing articles that are negative about Mofi in order to inculcate that thing which like Mofi is low quality since well it's black owned and all that, and so to make it synonymous to low quality and to make anything that is black produced is low quality. So as a media avenue, we want to counteract that with positive images and messages and research and development and African history that will dispel all the myths about Africa. The problem is that most of black-owned companies, they try to replicate our business model that are Eurocentric. So they're trying, this publication maybe is geared towards pushing sensationalism, not elements of newsworthiness. So the problem is that when we start our businesses, we should apply them in an Afrocentric, cultural and economic orientation. Having a black-owned publication is not enough if we don't have a pro-black narrative, if the mind is not black. And so it's not enough to say, hey, now we have black producers who are producing content. If the content is not progressive, then the content is nonsense.
Sure.
If your platform is not adding value to the people, then your platform is nonsense. So we should be looking at things like that, and also look at our positions as Africans, which what situation we are in. You understand? Like, hence why I put emphasis the fact that media is a powerful entity. Even Malcolm X put into emphasis that the white media is what is pushing what an anti-black narrative. You understand? It's going to make what the oppressed look guilty and the guilty look innocent. That's the power of media.
Mm-hmm.
So let's use that power at our disposal. For instance, Hustler's Corner is a media outlet for the people, you understand?
Yes.
So we are fighting, you understand? We are fighting all those anti-black narratives.
Thank you, Doctor. I don't know if a lot of people know that some of our favorite publications in this country, you mentioned the Daily Sun.
Yes.
I'm not sure about Sunday World. I think your Drums, your Bonas, they all sit under NASPERS, Media 24, which was obviously built by the Afrikaans Broederbond. So sometimes it becomes tricky, which are the black media platforms in this country?
Indeed.
And part of my concern as well, because we're here in the Hustlers Corner, only virtual Mkhukhu, it's on an American platform. You're on Facebook, which is an American platform. I've been blocked. I'm blocked currently now on my page. The power of, if you're pushing an agenda, I don't know if you guys have ever been blocked or if you've personally been blocked in terms of trying to do that, because in trying to fit into their mold, whatever their mold is, they shut you down when you try and speak against what they stand for.
Indeed. That's why I advocate for us as Africans to create our own social media that are Facebook-like, that are Twitter-like, so that we can compete with those people. As capitalism should not just be which apply or there's an economic system. It should be balanced by communism, socialism, and everything. Not to say a country must be entirely socialistic or the country must be entirely. So it's a balance of everything.
So to what Sbu is asking, do you have a balance for this is where we make money, this is where we're conscious? Because I think it probably flows on from the question of if white businesses want to advertise on your platform and
Yes.
you say no, but
Yes.
they can bring money which can go to uplifting blacks, do you say no as long as it doesn't align to our consciousness?
We are speaking about advertising. So advertising is what is creating an awareness. So now as a pro-black avenue, if say I'm creating awareness for a white business, isn't that maybe me being a hypocrite? And say, well, the platform being hypocrite. So if I say I'm pro-black, I need to stick by that. So the name is Vuka Dakie. So when you see, which means wake up black person, when you see a white-owned business there, it doesn't make sense.
Sure.
You understand? So for instance, if say maybe for instance, must push stokfela sethu. strictly black people are allowed to be members of the stokvel so that they can have shares. We do not allow any white participation. It's not being racist. We are trying to counter balance, and so we're trying to catch up. We are playing a catch-up game.
Because of the legacies of apartheid.
Yes, all the legacies of. So we are fixing the mess. Speaking of funding, Thomas Sankara teaches us that he who feeds you controls you. So now, by virtue of them maybe putting money for advertisement, that will like distort my narrative, because I'm talking about cars, and Coca-Cola cannot maybe speak ill about maybe white monopoly capital, because now we're chasing away abantu abazo advertise. So umuntu makazofaka imali uzokucontrola will dictate the terms and conditions. So I'm avoiding that. So white money comes with what comes with controlling
terms and conditions. Yes. But I try to support black as much as possible, because I do understand what happens when you give a rent to Oleti. I do understand what happens when you give a rent to Umchita out there, that it goes back to Ekas and it feeds someone.
Yeah.
Versus if you give your money to someone else, it pushes a certain agenda, as we've seen, I think, even with our government. And I've said to people that if you claim to be conscious, it's not just about who you vote for, because by then it's too late. It's too late. The people that you vote for have already been funded by the people you claim to hate. And the reason they have power is because you're giving them your money. So you have to vote with your rent.
A conscious decision, 4 years ago, and I was like, I'm going to change this crop. As much as I'm wearing local brands, but I think I'm wearing maybe 5 to 10% of local. I think over the years, up until today, the balance has shifted. I think I now wear more local brands than I do international. And I've got, my wardrobe's full of Gucci's and because I don't, you know what I mean? Like, my mindset has changed. I think I'm more conscious than I used to be. And there's other things that don't mean much to me as back in the day they used to. Maybe some clothes at the time, I'll probably buy them for validation purposes, not necessarily valid to really look good. Sure, I was just buying it because what we do.
So that people can be like, hey, yeah, it wasn't for you personally, and it didn't speak to your consciousness.
And speaking of that, I feel as if like if celebrities were to tap into the culture of wearing local, and also black brands, I feel as if like they should endorse our celebrities, you understand? The government official of Kenya was mandated which must wear local, I think, for a particular event or of time or whatsoever. And then on that event, this was cutlass, enhancer stimulated the local economy. That means the same thing as Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara told his cabinet to exclusively wear a locally produced cloth called the Fasodan. You understand? And so that's hence why economy, yes, Burkina Faso was booming during the presidency, Yaga Thomas Sankara, because like he was pushing for local production. You understand? So if, for instance, our government were to restrict the import of maybe amateur and not, and push for local production, so that we can localize our production and internationalize our distribution channel. That's how we add weight to the economy.
We bash America. I bash America a lot because I think they spread fake propaganda. I think they bully other nations. They're always about America. But there's something to be learned from there, that they care about themselves and their people. I think even a controversial figure like Adolf Hitler got a German clothing designer, Hugo Boss, to make local clothing for the Nazi soldiers. Then you got a German guy, Ferdinand Porsche, to create a local car brand in Volkswagen. So some of these nations that have done maybe atrocious things, they meant to teach us that, guys, you may hate us, you may whatever, but the lesson here is be like us, be proud of who you are. I think in the State of the Nation address, Cyril Ramaphosa, who I don't particularly like, did promote local brands. The shoes he was wearing, I think, were from KZN. The suit he was wearing had been tailored by somewhere. So there has to be a push. I know they're very far from it. But I think you and I spoke about this off air, that sometimes we wait for our politicians. But if a big celebrity like DJ Sbu can lead, and if other people out there can say, no, I'm going to do this, maybe they'll catch on, because their voters will be like, and they might be like, hey, I think our voters actually care about what we're wearing. And it's like, because it means you're also voting with your rent. And I know abantu that are going to capture you, because you will be captured, because you need funding. You'll be captured by people that at least align with my interests. It's going to take a long time, and I think even our leaders need to be mentally decolonized somewhat.
I feel like if maybe as the Black Nation, we should boycott. I think boycotting is the most powerful form of protest. You understand? Unlike just marching and what. I think if we can boycott the celebrities that don't support local brands, you understand? I feel as if that would pressure them. Because when you start taking money out of someone's pocket, that's when they start listening.
Do you think they should be forced? So, for example, you have Vuka.
I feel like it's a moral obligation, and they should be like compared. Yes, I think sometimes when a situation you think about that, if it needs people to take their Gucci belts and hit them, I feel like we should do that. But I'm just saying, with like sometimes we're at that level, we're at the bottom of the economic food chain as Africans. So, in order for us to catch up, I think we need to always even nama policy as a Black nation. I mean, I feel like if someone wants to boycott, because obviously there are people who boycott Vuka by virtue of Vuka being pro-black, especially Black people, because Black people they only boycott Black-owned businesses. So I'm used to being boycotted. You understand? So I don't have a problem with being boycotted, but as long as I stay principled and true to my cause, I think that's the most important thing. Speaking of boycotting, I did put into emphasis that if Belesaba boycott, it will push them bathenge local. Because when a young person sees a celebrity or a public figure wearing something, I'm inspired. For instance, celebrity. For instance, I posted that video of Mofaya, that guy from Generation. So there's this other guy. He was like, hey, homeboy, so more fire, because what? I'm saying, actually more fire.
I think finding a source of inspiration, especially when you're in an uncomfortable, abnormal, I think it does a lot. A lot of these guys, Abu Muhammad Ali, Abu Malcolm X, had somewhat difficult pasts, and they found enlightenment somewhere, which kind of pushed them. So I appreciate that you found Black consciousness. I think it's helped a lot of people in darkness, especially when you look at this white supremacist world that we live in, finding that voice inside, or that speaks from outside to you inside, so that you can fight another day.
Black consciousness is the remedy for all social ills in the Black community, drugs and all that. Like, if you are self-aware, like to be Black conscious means that you are aware yourself as a Black person, you know that you are supreme. So you won't be putting things in your nose if you know that understand? So hence why each and every day when I wake up, I make sure I prepare a piece, an article, or whatever that was going to change the people. Understand? But mostly of my things is not just opinion, it's research and development. I believe in separation because you remember back then during Jim Crowism in the US, let's just use a classical case study.
Yes.
And so like USA is a racist country, you understand? So you remember subsequent to the slave trade or whatsoever that was transpiring during the slave trade, subsequent to slavery being abolished in America, they started what the government with like there must be separation. Black people must live in their own spaces, they must build their own businesses, they must buy from their own shops, which compel Black people to start their own businesses, which forced Black people to buy black. You understand? So if you remember the Black Wall Street, the successful town in Oklahoma in USA,
And then
they destroyed it. You remember that township? It had Black millionaires. They had their own bus system. They had their own law firms. They had their own bakery. They had their own banks, everything.
Oklahoma
institutions. To
Black Wall Street.
Yes. They bombed it because out of jealousy. Because they saw it was fruitful more than white businesses.
Yeah.
Even white people, they saw with together, they became jealous.
Sure.
So hence I'm just referencing that. And also practicing where in South Africa. During apartheid, whereby it was separation, artists were more pro-black during that time. Abu Mera Makeba, ALUTA, CONTINUA, the narrative was pro-black. And then it changed post 1994. Seba fake makhaleni seba used. Yayona lento le. But Mama Letambulo was Kuza, what is not yet Uhuru, but we didn't listen. You understand? So separation, it compelled us to do for ourselves, to have that self-determination. So hence why I'm saying that let's try it because it worked for us. I feel like all industries should have what you call associations. For example, the taxi industry is the only black-owned industry in South Africa. It's the only black and their competitive edge is that they have an association that speaks for them. Hence why the taxi industry, some of them, they are not registered, but by Batola, COVID reliefs. You understand? They have the power.
Registered.
No, some of them they did because now they have that power to say better most black businesses then totally relief and send is to marginalize obvious most of black businesses are not registered but they're secular. So a taxi association it protects taxi owners and the industry at large. And then let's say for instance, kuba ne association for abantu abakundinwela ama-barbers and what, so that we can restrict people from outside. You understand? Coming in here and owning our economy. You understand? And I think there should also be a territory tax. For instance, in order for Pakistanis to have AMA shops, they must pay a territory tax. And that's separate from the tax So they must give back to the community. You understand? You can't be coming from maybe another community and come to another community and ship out the wealth and not give back, because that's the problem that most people have. Most people, they don't protect Pakistan or Somalians from xenophobia when they attack their shop because they don't give back. They don't do nothing for the community. You understand? So Makala's new one and Kuba you. Hence why we want to play shop, they are not limited listen to this because they are part of the community. You understand? So each and every community, I feel like when I'm a community meeting, we speak about this. Each and every month, you continue on your shop, keep modalities that will be add value in terms of maybe building recreational setters within that community, or else you don't operate. You understand? This thing of a free economy within you can come in and operate and ship out the wealth. It doesn't work. And also nama big chain stores and all that, I don't think they are doing enough. You understand? In order to add value to the community, just take out the wealth and just leave.
Yeah, so some governments, like for instance, they came to Dubai. You can't just go into Dubai and own 100% of the business. Half of that business must be owned by the locals. So such policies that have been enforced by the government
makes a lot of sense.
Benefit the local economy.
Politics are controlled by the economics. You understand? I feel like if people can own their economic realities, they can control and capture the politics. If, for instance, Abu Rupert, they need not to be at the parliament and what, they are just controlling things via remote. They fund elections, they fund politicians so that they can have control of our policies. That end up favoring them. So us as black people, we're the ones who are supposed to be capturing Abu Julius Malema. Abu Julius Malema should be with Nanasa's with some dictator with guys. Yeah, actually take anjalo. Because now I'm a politician and will change it overnight. They are used to being funded. You understand? And imagine when you get funded, you have to honor the promises and all that. So I feel like if we can fund the politicians so that they can create fiscal and monetary policies that favor us as black people. Because when you see even the policies are anti-black. Some of them are good on paper, but the implementation is not good. I feel like self-hate if we can fix the self-hate and inferiority complex that we have as a black people. I remember when DJ Sbu started with More Fire, people started being about Dr. Sbu, Seba Khuluma ngokuthini there's too much caffeine and what all of a sudden
Baba my expert.
Yeah, about my expert. You understand? That's self-hate. Most of the time people they are self-hating and they masquerade as if like this is the reason that we don't support black businesses, but most of the time it's self-hate. Taste More Fire or whatsoever, but he already has a negative critique about More Fire. Then since we're in the and another thing, important thing is what is for us to own our means of production. Understand? When we own our means of production, then we have the power to determine our own price. And then no recession, no fixed prices or whatsoever formed against us shall prosper. Because now we're in control of the production, then we can determine our prices so that we can price at low. So Malcolm X once said that the reason why black people charge high prices is because they buy their products from the Europeans and the Orientals. If a black person can start to produce the goods that he sells, he will make more. You understand? And in the pricing now is change, right? So that So I think owning means of production and also changing our mentality in terms of self-love. So I think Vuka is a perfect platform for which I want to buy heat.
Sure.
Yeah, I understand it because there we're pushing black love and all that. Hence why I advocate for us to create more black-owned media avenues, because our Daily Sun, they are not sleeping. All those white-owned avenues are not sleeping. They are constantly pushing that anti-black narrative, which it perpetuates that mindset if it's black, it's inferior. Yeah, it's all about it. So I feel as if also land is the basis of economics. I think it also boils down to the land question, because in order for you to own means of production, you need to have land. And
Sure.
I think the thing of talking about land now, I think
it's way over. We can't talk anymore.
Can't talk anymore. I think we should come up with ways as to how we implement. But I think now if we can change the mind, then we can change our behavior. Because there's a great African scholar by the name of Dr. Amos Wilson. He once said Japan doesn't possess much of natural resources. You understand? But it managed which he invested to the education system. Yeah, they invested on their education system. So their education system is Japanese oriented. You understand? So now it creates people who are going to be pro-Japanese. So all the solutions that they formulate are going to solve Japanese people's problems. And so they don't have much of it, but they control our resources in Congo because they are socialized within whatever.